Okay, we are set. Welcome to Inside the Realtor Studio, interviews with industry leaders and professionals in real estate. The Tucson Association of Realtors is turning 100 this year, 1921 to 2021, and we honor our history by conducting interviews of the past presidents of the Tucson Association of Realtors. We'll learn a little bit of history by talking to the experts themselves. I think you'll recognize our past president today. Russell Long served as our president in 1988. Russell's grandfather founded Long Realty, and his father built the company to 8 offices. Although Russell has the Long name, he's better known for his hard work, honesty, prompt response to phone calls and emails, and I can attest to that, wise negotiation, and extensive real estate experience. Russell's 43 years of real estate experience have included branch management, but his dedication to residential sales with his wife and business partner, Christy, alongside a full team of professionals, helped them to break a record in Tucson real estate sales to become Tucson's #1 agent for 3 years. I'd like to give a warm Inside the Realtor Studio welcome to President Russell Long.
Hi, Steve. Thank you.
You bet. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you for putting together this history.
Yeah, I think it's about time we had something like this, and it'll be great for those people going forward and climbing up the ladders at another point.
Terrific.
So I'm going to start with a little bit in real estate before your presidency. This is going to be a silly question. I ask it to everybody, but maybe I'll get an answer I don't expect. Where did you hang your license?
Well, I was a high school English and speech teacher, and my wife was a learning disabilities teacher at Saguaro High School, and we wanted to have a family. And so if she quit teaching to start having babies, we couldn't make it on one teacher's salary. So I thought about going into insurance. I thought about selling real estate, and houses were very exciting to me. And so we started selling real estate in July of 1977. And I hung my license with Long Realty at a little office that the company had at 1826 East 6th Street. Mm. And so I started off as a salesman, and that year, I think that year in November, my dad took my wife and me to it was the Tucson Board of Realtors back then, to the awards and installation banquet. And that night, and I'm pretty sure it was 1977, it could have been 78. Could have been 76, but I think it was 77. Jim Tegas was named Realtor of the Year, and he got up and gave this marvelous speech. He was classy. He was well dressed. He was incredibly eloquent, and I thought, I want to be just like that guy. So I've told Jim this story before. I think I've even told him that recently. So, fortunately I got to follow in his footsteps. And at that time, the Board of Realtors office was in an old house on the west side of Swan Road, just north of 5th Street. And it was either at 1617 or 1627 North Swan.
You're answering some of my questions ahead of time, which is great. So did you work alone when you started out, or were you part of a team, or how did you do that?
No, I just worked by myself. Yeah. They didn't have teams back then. So I did well. My 5th year teaching contract as a tenured teacher was going to be $12,500. So my first year in real estate, I made $25,000. So we doubled our income And I was very pleased with that. My dad opened an office on Broadway near Wilmont, and he needed an assistant manager. And so he asked me if I'd go out and be the assistant manager. So that was in 1978, and I did that. And 2 weeks later, the manager died and he had a heart attack in his office chair.
Oh,
So
no.
I became the manager with basically no training at all. And so I'm telling you this story for a reason, Steve. It pertains to what follows. So I was manager of that office, and in 1980, a woman came in to see me. I don't remember why she came into the office, but she was a real estate agent from California. And she told me how they did real estate in California, that they had a computer.
Hmm.
We didn't have a computer. They had these things called lock boxes where you could get into a house. And so it sounded amazing because we were living in the not particularly technological era at the time, and I got very excited about it. And so Dan McAvoy was a guy I knew. He was with Tucson Realty and Trust. He was president of Tucson Board of Realtors. And I called Dan up and I said, "Hey, Dan, I just talked to this woman, and she talked about how they do real estate in California. Um, Oh, and by the way, she said that the multiple listing service was under the auspices of the Realtors. Well, in Tucson, we had the Realtors, and then we had multiple listing service of Tucson, which was a separate corporation, a stock owned corporation. So the problem with that was that if you got in trouble, you had double jeopardy. You could be fined by the Realtors, you could be fined by the multiple listing service of Tucson. So I explained all this to Dan, and I said it just makes total sense to have the multiple listing service under the auspices of the Realtor Association. And I explained to him the computer and the lock boxes, and he said, "Well, why don't you come make a presentation to the board of directors?" So I think that was in 1981, and it was in that little office on Swan Road. So I gave a presentation, and after it was over, Dan called me up, and they said the board would like you to be the chairman. The chairman of the Multiple Listing Service Search Committee. So I had met Mike Whaling and Bill Check, and the three of us put together the search committee, and we interviewed 3 or 4 multiple listing service companies. The one we liked was created by a company called McGraw-Hill. So we set up a time, and McGraw-Hill came into that board office and gave a presentation, all their whiz-bang stuff, how the computers worked, how you could search online. You didn't have to have these single sheets anymore. And so the board of directors asked me and Mike and Bill Check to become the implementation committee. And so we designed all the forms, the input forms, all of that kind of thing. And so it was exceptionally controversial because you had this other multiple listing service. And most of the members of the Tucson Board of Realtors also own stock in the multiple listing service of Tucson. So we got our multiple listing service set up. It was ready to go. We were ready to input listings. And the 5 big companies in town, I think it was Realty Executives, Denton, Tucson Realty and Trust, Long Realty, and I can't remember the other one, maybe Endevco. The 5 big companies agreed that we would input listings into both services for 2 to 3 weeks. And we would see which one we liked the best. And so after 3 weeks or so, it was clear that what McGraw-Hill provided was superior. So those 5 companies stopped inputting into multiple listing service of Tucson, and they went out of business in another week or 2. As you can imagine, the vote to establish the multiple listing service under the auspices of the Tucson Board of Realtors was very controversial. There was a huge membership meeting and a vote, and it passed by a narrow margin. So there were people who were not happy with me, not happy with Mike, not happy with Bill. We created some arch nemesis, but we did the right thing. It was right that the multiple listing service be under the realtors, and that's, I mean, it had to happen. It had to happen at some point. As you know, how closely our multiple listing service is monitored by the National Association of Realtors. If that hadn't happened in 1980, it would have happened somewhere down the road.
Well, you totally transformed the technology of the day.
Right.
Because were you dealing with books prior to that?
Before that, we were dealing with single page sheets. You every office would get the new single pages, and they'd get filed every day. And if some agent pulled a listing out of the single pages, then that listing was gone.
Oh.
So now in our multiple listing service, it's not gone if somebody takes a look at it.
Yeah.
So we were named the committee of the year, and then I went through the chairs and became president in 1988.
Okay. So, you were, again, the building you were operating out was a single family home on Swan Road somewhere?
Well, that's where I started my activities with the board.
Okay.
And then they moved to a new building that was on the west side of Swan, just south of 5th Street. And south of 5th Street, just south of Speedway, which is now some kind of emergency medical building. It's a Santa Fe style building. And that's, I can't remember when we moved there, but that's where I was president in 88.
And who was your CEO?
Well, in the old house, it was a guy named Bob Spear.
Okay.
And Bob was CEO for a long time. And he retired, and they hired a guy named Greg Millward. And Greg Millward was our executive officer. And his assistant was a woman named Beverly Fall. Okay. And at some point after I was out of the presidency, Greg went on and became he went back east and was an executive officer somewhere. And then he became the executive officer of the New Mexico Association of Realtors, and did that until he retired, I think. And he still lives.
Was there more staff besides just him and The woman that you mentioned?
Yeah, there was a legal liaison, Jennifer something or another. There were 2 or 3 staff people.
Was Mike acting as our attorney?
Mike was the attorney.
Okay.
Mike was the attorney the whole time that I was involved.
So what got you involved in the association leadership?
Well, starting the multiple listing service.
Okay. So
And,
that's what,
and so then I was asked to be to run for a board position, and then I went up through the chairs like you did.
yep.
So it was about a 9 or 10 year run.
Did you have a mentor that in leadership that you worked with, or?
Um, uh, Carol Cummings was the past president, and she was very helpful. Rich Johnson was, I think he had been the president the year before Carol. And so they were very helpful. There were great past presidents. Jim Chumbler was terrific. So, you know, anything we needed, I'd go to those people. And Mike Monroe, what a fabulous man he was, is.
So your presidency happened after the multiple listing service was established, correct?
The multiple listing service finally became established, I think, in 83 or 84,
Okay.
and I was president in 88.
So in 88, did you have any big challenges that were going on or any accomplishments that you remember?
The biggest problem we had was the I don't remember why, but we were going to switch multiple listing services from McGraw Hill, and there may have been an interim one involved. I was no longer involved with the multiple listing service at the time. And so the board voted to implement a multiple listing service called Dator,
Mm.
Dator, and that was that was a nightmare.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. So that was the biggest challenge during the year, was implementing that multiple listing service and dealing with the consequences.
Yeah. Yeah, people love change.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I
We know.
found that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you serve on any Arizona Association of Realtor committees or NAR?
No, I think by the time I finished my 8 or 9 year run, I was ready to get back to business. So I didn't go beyond being president and being past president of. It was still the Tucson Board of Realtors at the time.
Okay. And any other thoughts about your term in office?
Well, I think when we were there, maybe the best thing we did, which still is in play today, is I'm a religious guy, and I went to St. Mark's Presbyterian Church, and so before I became president, before my term started, I asked my ministers to go to lunch. And we went to Las Margaritas on Grant Road. and I said to them, I'm going to be president of the Real Estate Association, and what I don't know. I feel some sort of divine destiny here to do something good. What can the realtors? I'm going to be in this position. What can the realtors do? And they said to me that we in Tucson, they were part of the Interfaith Coalition for the Homeless. They said we need a home for homeless women with children. And I said, well, I'll see what I can do. So not too long later after that was Realtor Day at local government. And we would get on a bus, the realtors would get on a bus and go down to city council and talk to the politicians about our issues. And sitting on the bus with Rich Johnson, who was, uh, I think, president in '86, and he had just come back. He was the state president of CRS, and he said he'd just come back from the national convention, CRS convention, and they were charged by their president with helping homeless people. And I said, I got it. I said, I got it. Here. And I told him what my minister said. So Rich and I set up the Hearth Foundation, or we got that rolling. I was president of the board, and Rich became president of the Hearth Foundation. And so we set that up that year, and our board of directors agreed to fund that. And so that is still in place today. And they have helped countless homeless women with children. And so I guess in my career with the association, I'm proudest of helping set up the multiple listing service under the auspices of the realtors and setting up the Hearth Foundation. So I think we did some good things for our members, and we did good things for homeless women.
Both of which are still in effect today, which
Right.
is that's just amazing. So in a shameless homage to James Lipton of Inside the Actors Studio, I'm going to do some short questions here at the end as we bring it to a close. What's your favorite word?
Wow. Please.
Okay. What's your least favorite word?
I can't.
Okay. What turns you on?
Music.
Mhm. What turns you off?
Incompetence.
Okay. And what profession other than real estate would you like to have attempted?
Three.
Okay.
Three. My dad was always very interested in politics, and so from the time I was a kid, we talked about politics. He co-owned an airplane with a guy, and he flew Barry Goldwater around when Barry was running for Senate. So I got to meet Barry, and so I thought about going into politics. And I think being president of the Real Estate Association cured me of that.
Okay.
Seriously. I have always been interested in the law. I think if being practical, if I hadn't gone into real estate at some point, I would have wanted to go to law school. Well, I would love to be a professional musician, but there ain't no money in that.
And what profession are you super glad that you never attempted?
Well, today I'm so glad I didn't become a politician. Oh,
There we
gee.
go.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So in closing, if you could do a shout out to anyone living or not in the real estate community, who would it be and why?
Well, I've already said it, Jim Tegas. I mean, that man is still, that guy's the Energizer Bunny. My wife's laughing in the background. That guy's the Energizer Bunny. He's, I don't know, I won't venture to guess how old he is, but he's been doing this for so long. He's contributed so much. He is so smart, uh, talented, thoughtful. I can't imagine anybody more than Jim that I would feel that way about.
All right. Well, I'd like to give a warm Inside the Realtor Studio thank you to President Russell Long. Thanks so much, Russell.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, I'm going to cut off the recording at this point.